We all go about our day pretty sure that what we see is, well, what's really there. But what if I told you that's not the whole story? Not even close. What if every single creature on this planet is living in its own private universe, a reality custom-built just for them? Well, today, we're going to peek into some of those secret worlds of animal perception.
I mean, just look around you right now. Take it all in. The colors, the light, the shapes of everything. Now, what if all of that—
What if it's just your world? A version of reality that's been carefully edited and fine-tuned just for us humans over millions of years. And to really get our heads around how these different realities are constructed, we've got to start with something we take for granted every single day: color.
Okay, so here's the thing about color. It's not actually in the objects around you. It's an interpretation. It's something your brain creates. It's just how our eyes and brain make sense of all the different frequencies of light that are bouncing off of everything. You could almost think of it like a biological code.
And for us humans, that code is written with just 3 types of special cells in our eyes, called cone cells. They're tuned to red, green, and blue. That's it. From just those 3 inputs, our brain cooks up the millions of colors we see. Every single sunset, every piece of art, it's all just a symphony played on those 3 notes. That's our trichromatic reality. But believe me, it is far, far from the only one out there. All right, so we've got our human baseline. Now, let's have some fun and step outside of it. Because once you do, the world just shatters into this incredible kaleidoscope of different realities.
This is a great way to visualize it. Think of each type of color receptor as a dimension of sight. So you've got animals like whales and seals that are monochromatic. They're seeing in one dimension, basically shades of gray. Then you have most mammals, like your dog or cat. They're dichromatic, with 2 dimensions. That's the reason they can't tell red from green. We humans and other apes are trichromats with 3. But then it gets wild. Most birds, reptiles, and fish are tetrachromats. They have a 4th receptor, often for ultraviolet light, which means they can see colors that we literally cannot even begin to imagine.
And this is such a perfect example of how perception evolves for a very specific purpose. What we see as just a pretty flower is actually, for a bee, like a high-tech, glowing landing strip guiding it right to the food.
So on the left, that's the flower in our world. Pretty simple. But on the right, well, that's closer to what a bee sees. Because their vision goes into the ultraviolet spectrum, that plain yellow flower suddenly becomes a bullseye. It's got these UV patterns that are basically runway lights pointing nectar this way. Their whole reality is just perfectly optimized for finding their next meal.
Okay, now let's flip that idea on its head. While bees are seeing these extra signals we can't, most other mammals are actually missing things that are completely obvious to us. And for them, a super important food source can be perfectly camouflaged, hiding in plain sight.
And this is where we primates got our evolutionary edge. With our 3-cone, trichromatic vision, a ripe red piece of fruit absolutely screams out against green leaves. You just can't miss it. But for an animal with 2-color vision, a dichromat like a deer, that red fruit and the green leaves just kind of blur together into this muddy brownish color. So our ability to see red, that was probably a massive advantage for finding the best, most energy-packed food around.
Which, brings us to the big question, right? So who is seeing the real world? Is the bee's UV-painted world more real than our world with all its reds? Is the dog's world somehow less real just because it's missing a color channel? And the answer, it turns out, is that real isn't really the right word to be using here.
See, the reason for all these different realities isn't random at all. It's the product of let's call it the ruthless efficiency of evolution.
This brings us to the core idea here, the natural perception hypothesis. And what it says, basically, is that there is no single objective reality that every animal sees. Instead, each species evolves its own sensory toolkit that builds a useful reality for them, a version of the world that cranks up the volume on what's important for survival and just filters out everything else as, noise. So, put another way, perception isn't about seeing the truth, it's about staying alive. Evolution could not care less if a bee thinks a flower is beautiful. All that matters is that the bee's perception gets it to the nectar so it can live another day and pass on its genes. So how does this actually happen? Well, it's kind of like a feedback loop. First, you get some kind of pressure from the environment, say the need to find ripe fruit. Then, the sensory systems adapt, maybe by evolving a 3rd cone cell that can see red. All of a sudden, this creates a whole new perceived world, one where fruit just pops out from the background. And that new reality drives new behaviors, like, hey, let's focus on eating fruit, which, over time, can even lead to the evolution of a totally new species.
Okay, to make this whole theory a bit more concrete, let's move beyond just color for a second. Let's try to imagine the full sensory world of an animal whose entire reality is built around threat, defense, and the herd.
And for that, we're going to look at the Cape buffalo. Now, this is not your average cow. This animal is an absolutely formidable force on the African savannas, and its behavior is a direct reflection of the world it perceives.
I mean, their coordination as a herd is just incredible. If predators show up, they instantly form a fortress, shoving all the calves into the middle for protection. They don't just run, they'll turn and fight, actively mobbing lions to protect one of their own. And get this, they even show this kind of democratic voting, where the females will all face the direction they want to go and the herd moves based on the majority vote. It's amazing.
Now, this isn't just a bunch of random instincts. This is the result, the output of a very unique perceptual world. Just think about it. To behave like that, what must a buffalo be sensing and processing every single moment of its life?
Their reality probably isn't about, say, the specific color of the grass. It's much more likely to be about the subtle shift of a shadow that might be a lion, or the specific sound of a calf in distress that triggers an instant all-herd defense. It's about the body language of the herd that tells them what to do next. Their entire perception is tuned to the frequency of the group, of the collective.
So, okay, we've seen secret UV codes on flowers, evolutionary stoplights in the form of red fruit, and an entire world built around collective defense. So what's the big takeaway from all this?
Well, it's that there is no single real world. There are billions of them, and each one is running inside the mind of a different creature. A German biologist named Jakob von Exkoll had a great word for this, the Umwelt. It's the unique, self-centered perceptual world of an animal. And the thing is, we're all living inside our own.
And this isn't just some neat philosophical thought experiment either. This has huge real-world consequences, right? If you're trying to design a conservation area, you can't just think about what an animal eats. You have to understand what its perceptual world is like. Is the light pollution from a nearby city blinding a nocturnal animal? Is the noise from a highway drowning out the mating calls of another? We don't just have to protect their physical habitat, we have to protect their reality.
And that leaves us with one last kind of mind-bending thought to chew on. Our own rich, colorful, detailed world, it's also just a tiny sliver of the total picture. It's just the version of reality that our evolution happened to build for us. So if every species only perceives what it needs to survive, what else is out there? What parts of reality are all around us, completely invisible, just waiting to be perceived?